Good evening, everybody. It is the Safety and the Sportswriter show with Knoxville, Nate, and Big Joe as we get back after taking a week off for Christmas celebrations and such. And we are back to talk to you about the world of sports and NFL football. We got a lot going on as we're getting a clearer picture on what the playoffs look to be. I mean, we're starting to see who the fakers are and who the real people are going to be there. But there's a couple of question marks and a couple of things such as the Jets, who still have a very good chance to go there. But, man, those two losses to the Patriots are looking really bad right now.
And this is a big, big game for them this week. You know, the matchup against the Lions, I'm not sure it's the best matchup for them because they're not a team that can pump points out, and Detroit is. Yep. So, you know, the question's going to be, can the Jets offense score enough points to keep up with the Lions, because the Lions offense is hitting on all cylinders.
Especially with the fact that Mike White got beat up last week. I don't know. He's got cracked ribs. You never know how that's going to affect. I mean, he could be the gutsiest guy in the world, but the ribs are something you can't really do anything with. You can tape them, you can pad them up, but I mean, every time he breathes, he's going to feel it. So
yeah, they might, depending on the severity of it, they can shoot him up.
Yeah, but hopefully it's not Tyrod Taylor's doctor.
Yeah, no kidding. And also, depending on how bad it is, sometimes they can't. So it'll be interesting to see. I know he wants to play, but it's kind of interesting. The Jets have also moved Zach Wilson back to the 2 and dropped Joe Flacco to the bottom. So if Mike White can't go, does that mean they're starting Zach Wilson? Because if they're doing that, I'm taking the Lions.
I think they have to. I think that's a move they had to do. You know, Joe Flacco's at the end of his career. It showed. I mean, when he came on early in the middle of that game and fumbled on like the first play. I mean, he may be time for him to start looking at a coaching position, because I don't think he can do it anymore. And worst case scenario, I mean, I know the Jet fans right now are looking, playoffs and beyond, and hopefully they think that they can make some kind of would be a heroic run. I don't see how they think they can leapfrog over the Bills and the Chiefs, but either way, it would be nice when you come out of this season to know what you're going to do with Zach Wilson, because I mean, you can't spend any more time with this kid.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, they're in the middle of a playoff run here. I mean, do you want to, figure out what you got with Zach Wilson, or do you want to make the playoffs and keep your job? I mean, we've learned from the Todd Bowles situation that they're not going to, give Robert Saleh a pass because they have a developmental quarterback. So he's got to do what he thinks is best for the team. And is Joe Flacco good? Not really, but is he better than Zach Wilson? He might be. That's the really scary part.
Well, let's start in New York right now, because, the Giants, finally, their warts are starting to show. Teams have taken Saquon Barkley out of the scenario now. And we know that they don't have weapons, but still, I mean, that little, I don't know what you call it, some kind of a screen pass they do all the time where, they'll roll Daniel Jones out, and the guy rolls out in front of him, and they just dump it off, or he takes off. Everybody knows that play is coming now. Yeah. And it's shown in the last few weeks they don't have the team yet to compete, but at the same time, they got to make decisions on Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point with the Giants, you're in a playoff race too, but they've invested 4 years in this dude. It's time. It's put up time or shut up time with him. I mean, you got to figure out what you have with him. They don't have really anybody behind him anyway. They need to figure out whether or not this is their guy going forward. And, I keep going back to, have I seen enough? And the answer is, I have no idea. No. I don't think so. I mean, if I was the Giants, maybe I franchise him, or maybe I signed him to a 1-year extension or something like that. But I am not going into next year without bringing in another young guy that can compete. To compete for the job. I'll leave. Maybe I'll hang on to Jones, but I'm bringing in a high draft pick to fight with him in camp.
Yeah, and they've got to definitely get outside weapons. Either they got to get a tight end or something that they can challenge teams with, because right now they're I think they're behind the 8 ball going against Washington right now. I mean, you're still in the playoffs if this playoff started today, but if you've watched him the last few weeks, Dayball and his coaching can only hide their holes for so long before they start showing.
Well, and everybody's got a full season of tape on Dayball's scheme, so they've been able to adjust based on the weaknesses in the scheme, and that's understandable. I don't put that on the coach. He's done a pretty good job with what he has, and he's won a lot of the close games, which is what they've lost in the past few years. You remember even last year we were watching that Tampa Bay game at night where they outplayed Tampa all night and still blew it at the end. And that's what last year's teams were doing. But this year they're either, winning those close games or they're getting blown out because they're, outmatched.
Well, I think, the good thing, if you're a Giant fan like I am, what you saw on Sunday is how far they are away from the Eagles. That Eagles team had all the answers. The Giants just had a bunch of questions. And it's actually probably a good game for Shane and for Dayball to say, okay, these guys can stick and play. These guys we got to get alternatives to, and start gearing up for the draft and free agency in the offseason, and figure out how they're going to fill the holes and finally get things going. You can't just sit there and every year go, we're going to rework the offensive line. The offensive line's okay. It's not a great offensive line, but it's an okay offensive line. You need weapons. You need some weapons outside.
Well, they've missed on all these wide receivers. I mean, when we've said, how many times have I said this? When Richie James is your best wideout, you're in big trouble. I like him, and he's done a good job for what he is, but he's not a number one, and he's their best weapon. Now, Wan'Dale Robinson showed some promise before he got hurt. I think that was probably their best draft pick in a while, but they hit. They had a huge miss with that Galladay signing.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened there. I don't know what's wrong with that dude, but he's been a complete and utter no-show. The Kadarius Toney draft pick was a bad one. As I said at the time, I wasn't really sure what that guy was in the NFL. I certainly didn't think he was a starting outside wide receiver just based on how small he was. So I didn't like that pick either. And, Darius Slayton's been hurt. The kid out of Oklahoma, Sterling Shepard, who tore his knee again. He's been injury plagued. And, honestly, it's kind of tough for a lot of Giants fans probably to sit there and watch Evan Ingram tear it up with the Jaguars because they don't have much at tight end either.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is tough to watch, but then again, he's got Trevor Lawrence throwing him the football, so it's probably a little help there too.
There's no doubt.
So let's take a look at the playoff picture. Let's start let's start out with Arizona and what's going on there. Kyler Murray is gone for the year, if not more, depending on how bad this knee is going to be. Usually it takes about a year and a half to get everything back, and his game depends so much on his running.
Well, who knows if he's ever even going to be the same guy?
Right.
I mean, the one thing he had, in my opinion, that's made him, somewhat good over the past few years is that he's the fastest dude or the quickest guy on the field most of the time. And now with a completely repaired ACL, who knows if he'll ever be that quick ever again. So horrible contract. We said so at the time. I thought it was pitiful move by the front office. They didn't have to do it. I have no idea why they caved. They had him under contract for another year and had the 5th-year option. It was stupid, and they're going to pay for it. And can we talk for just 1 second about our boy, Baker Mayfield?
Yeah.
Thursday night comes in, been on the team for 2 days. Everybody has been talking about how trash Baker Mayfield is. He was horrible for the Browns. He's horrible for the Panthers. He's no good. Well, you finally put him on a team with a couple of guys that can at least catch the football, and he goes 98 yards with less than a minute and 48 seconds with no timeouts and gets a W for the Rams. God, I loved watching that, and I was so happy for the kid.
And, you think about it. I mean, right now the two best coaches offensively in the league. Well, you got to put Andy Reid up there too. I can't say that, but we're young coaches. McVay and Shanahan are so. I mean, you look what. I mean, come on. We watched Brock Purdy last year, and the last 2 years at Iowa State, going, when is this guy going to get his shit together?
Yeah, what happened to him is what we kept saying.
Yeah, and now, he's the last man picked in the Mr. Irrelevant in the draft, and he looked like he should have been the number one pick by what you saw on Sunday. I mean, a great performance there. So, I mean, it's a nice situation for Baker to be in. It's depending on what they're always talking about. McVay might leave. He might go into broadcasting. Stafford is what, 32, 33 years old?
At least. I think he's actually a little bit older than that. And let's be honest, he hasn't been the same all year long. He had that elbow issue in the offseason, and he didn't really play the entire offseason. He didn't play all of fall camp. He's actually 34 years old, and he'll be 35 in February. By the time the Super Bowl rolls around, Matt Stafford will be 35 years old. And, who knows if he ever comes back from this. I mean, he didn't look good all year long. His arm's been hurting him. He got hurt, in another injury down the stretch. He's had concussions the last couple weeks.
He's got his Super Bowl in his back pocket. I know.
Yeah.
This may have nothing to do with it, but I know his wife's had some health issues in the past, 5-6 years. She had the cancer scare and stuff.
He's got young kids.
Yeah, he might just sit there and go, look, I got my Super Bowl. I've done my job. I'm going to live my life with my kids now. Who knows? And Baker, that would be a nice place for Baker to land. I mean, you look around the landscape, where does he want to go? Houston, maybe start his career over there. They're looking for a quarterback. He'll just get his ass kicked there.
No, don't do that.
No, I know. It's like go to the Giants, maybe compete with Daniel Jones, another place you're going to get your ass beat. There's not a better option for him to reinvigorate his career than to be potentially Stafford's backup and potentially step in if Stafford's done.
Or when Stafford gets hurt. I mean, he's going to get to play regardless. And think about it, does Matt Stafford need money? The answer to that is no. The guy's got over $250 million in the bank. He doesn't need cash. I know he loves playing. I know he's, was reinvigorated with that Super Bowl last year. But let's just be honest, man. He hasn't been healthy all year long. That arm is in bad shape. Who knows if he's ever going to get back to where he was. And, maybe they ride with him at the beginning of next year. But if Baker can stay there, he's going to beat out John Wooliford. I mean, there's no doubt about that. He's better than Bryce Perkins. So right now, even if Matt Stafford is 100% and playing great football, Baker's the number 2. I think he stays there if he's smart, signs a contract that bets on himself, maybe incentive-based, and just waits it out to see if Stafford retires, or waits it out till Stafford gets hurt, because that's going to happen.
And let's face facts, if Baker is really the media hound everybody accuses him of being LA would not be a bad place to have his off-field career come back. I mean, so a lot of things would work well for Baker out there. Yeah. And, little Hollywood action, I mean, he's actually built for Hollywood. I mean, he kind of stuck out in Cleveland because Cleveland is not, bright lights, big city, I'm on every commercial type team. Whereas LA, that's what they do. They make stars. They live for stars. They live for guys that perform outside the box and say the outrageous things and that kind of stuff. So,
and he'd be considered low profile in LA, with LeBron and with Justin Herbert and all the celebrities out there. I mean, shit. There's not much.
And the movie stars and the Kardashians and all those other people.
That's what I'm saying. There's not much stupid stuff he could do that's any dumber than what all those people are doing. So I think he'd fit right in.
Yeah, it would be. You and I root for the kid because I think he got a raw deal. And if you look at it, what we were talking about before coming on the air, I just looked it up quickly. You got Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, and Kyler Murray, and between the three of them and all those big contracts that they signed in the offseason, they have 12 victories between the three of them. 12. Yeah. I mean, one of them, okay, Deshaun Watson sat out for most of the year. But we knew ahead of time he was going to do that. And as you were saying before we came on the air, we said at the time it's the dumbest contract we've ever heard for a guy that may be going to jail, if not worse, and you sign him to a no-cut contract. I mean,
even if he didn't have the off the field trouble with which he did, even if he didn't, the guy was 4-12 his last year as a starter in Houston, and then quit on his team and refused to play. So what do? You make this guy earn his way back on the field.
You reward him.
Reward him. You give him $18 million for quitting, and then you give him $230 million in cash guaranteed to his hands for groping massage parlor therapists. I just I don't understand what Mr. Haslam was thinking there. I should go ask him. He lives right down the street here, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what kind of words I would use because it was the worst. It was the worst contract that I've ever seen in sports history, at least from the team's perspective.
Start out with a word that begins with a J and then ends in ass.
Yeah, I mean that's what he's made. Turn the rest of the owners into is jackasses because now every quarterback wants a $230 million guaranteed, regardless of who they are.
Well, we can do that at a later date because I mean we got to talk about that. Once the season's over with, these contracts now with these quarterbacks are becoming untenable. I mean, you can't be paying $40 million for every freaking quarterback and still put a team together. Not with a salary cap. You're not going to be able to put a team around them, and then they're going to be crying about it.
Well, that's why Seattle wanted to move on from Russell Wilson. They had all those years that they went to the Super Bowl and were one of the best teams, if not the best team in the NFC, because they had Russell Wilson on a rookie contract, and he was he the greatest quarterback in the world? No, but he was good, and Russ could get it done because he had a great team around him, and they had all those superstars on defense. I mean, the Legion of Boom, Richard Sherman, Cam Chancellor, Earl Thomas. All those guys, Bobby Wagner, they could, pay those dudes because they weren't paying
Lynch.
Yeah, because they weren't paying Russ very much.
Right. So we'll see what happens there. But let's dig into the playoffs a little bit here and see what we like to look at. We'll start at the bottom of these on the bubble type deals. Let's start in the NFC. Still the Giants, Cowboys. It looks like the whole NFC East is going to the playoffs if it ended today, but I have a feeling that the Giants are going to fall out of it, if not Washington. But what about the Seahawks?
Yeah, the Seahawks have not looked good the last couple of weeks. The defense has just been horrible. I mean, I know Geno threw a couple of interceptions versus the Panthers, but really, I don't really put that game on him so much. He threw for almost 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. Were the 2 picks helpful? No, but you can't just keep getting gashed like the Seahawks have been on the run. The Carolina Panthers ran for 223 yards and 2 scores. I mean, you got Sam Darnold back there at quarterback who only had to throw the ball 14 times. He only had to complete 14 passes, and they won. So, that's what concerns me about the Seahawks. I think their offense is good enough. I think their run game is going to get better because Kenneth Walker III is coming back this week. But their defense bothers me. And if they can't shore up that run defense and slow these people down from running the football, I think they may get knocked out of the playoffs just like the Giants do.
And then we get the Lions. You look at a team that came out of the box slow. There's no reason to believe they were going to become what they are right now, which is a very dangerous team. And really, it's a great rewriting of the script for Jared Goff. I have tremendous respect for that guy. To leave the Rams, who went on to win a Super Bowl without him, after he kind of took the punishment for Matt Stafford to walk right in there and take over a Super Bowl ready team, and never said anything. Goes to Detroit, where basically for the most part of the last 20 years or 30 years or maybe even longer has been a place where people go to have their career die. And he and Dan Campbell have made this team into a watchable product, especially on offense, and they're competing, and they have a chance to go to the playoffs. And I would not feel bad if those guys made it over the Giants. Really, even as a Giant fan, I would feel good for Goff and for Campbell. I like them.
Well, yeah, I do too. And this team is one of the hottest teams in football. It's not really what your record is; it's how you're playing, and that's what I see. You mentioned the Commanders, or who I call the Redskins, earlier, and they're in a little bit of a bad situation because they were hot. They were rolling along, and honestly, the bye came for them at a very bad time because they were playing their best football of the year, and I think taking a week off sometimes can kill your momentum.
Yeah,
and that's what I worry about with them. Whereas the Lions are rolling. The Lions started the season 1-7. And some of those games were blowouts, 29-0 to the Patriots, 24-6 to the Cowboys in a game that wasn't that close. And then it all started changing when they played the Packers there and won that game 15-9. They started to believe. They won the next week 31-30 versus the Bears. Then they blew out the Giants. They lost a close one, 28-25 to the Bills. And then they hammered the Jaguars and beat the Vikings handily. So they've won 5 of 6 after starting 1-7, and they are one of the hottest teams in the league right now.
It's going to be interesting to see them come, because that's the discussion around here, is Jared Goff in cold weather. I mean, that's the one thing you can say that helps him is the fact that it's a dome stadium going to Detroit, so he doesn't have to worry about the cold weather and stuff. So this is going to be an interesting, against the Jet defense, which is very, very good, in a windy Meadowlands. How's it going to affect it? I think Detroit's really get it. They got to find a way to get that running game going, really, and take the pressure off of Goff. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's been the one somewhat issue. Last week, even against Minnesota, they didn't really run the football very well. I mean, Jamal Williams, 16 carries, 37 yards. DeAndre Swift, 6 carries for 21 yards. Justin Jackson, 4 for 19. Nobody's really averaging more than 3.5 yards a carry, and nobody really popped a long one. I mean, 8 yards was the longest run for Jamal Williams all day. 9 was the longest one for Swift. This offensive line needs to do a little bit better run blocking, and they need to be able to rely on the run a little bit more if they're going to, have Jared Goff be able to keep being effective.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. A team that's still, I mean, there's everybody's pretty much alive, but let's take a look at, it was the NFC least for 3 years, but now that NFC South is pure trash. You think you had to love it what San Francisco did to the Niners, but I mean that whole division is just a mess.
Well, that game, was 35-0, but honestly, it could have been 60-0. They were up 28-0 at halftime, and the Niners really called the dogs off, and they could have laid as many points as they wanted to, and that was the biggest thing. The Bucs offense sucking doesn't surprise me anymore. They've sucked for weeks, and they've gotten really lucky winning a couple of these games. The Seahawks game and the Saints game, they had no business winning either of those games. But their offense blowing doesn't surprise me at all. Their defense getting knocked around like they did against the third string quarterback of the 49ers. Now that blew me away. I mean, Christian McCaffrey, 14 carries, 119 yards. Brock Purdy in his first start ever, 16 of 21, for 2 touchdowns. I mean, that's legit. And even the backup running back, Jordan Mason, who I had to look up to see who he was, he had 11 carries for 56 yards at over 5 yards a carry. So that's what's really shocked me about the Buccaneers is not only does their offense suck, but now their defense sucks.
And Todd Bowles is a defensive coach. You would think that would be his consistency would be there. I mean, there are some weird stories coming out of there. Todd Bowles came out and said it wasn't true, that Brady is supposedly rewriting the game plans behind Leftwich's back. He's having secret meetings with the team and not telling Leftwich that they're going to switch plays and switch the way they're going to do things, which I don't know. I think that's maybe carrying it a bit too far, too much conspiracy theory. I don't think Brady's that much of a jackass. I don't think he would do that to Byron
Well,
Leftwich.
he did go to Michigan, so I wouldn't put
Forgive
any.
some of these guys at some point.
Yeah, I wouldn't put any jerk off move out of Michigan boys' hands, but let's be honest, it doesn't really matter who's putting the game plans together. They're not working, and
No.
they can't run the football. They are the worst team in the NFL running the ball, which blows me away because Leonard Fournette was running it at will a couple of years ago. That offensive line, the interior guys being gone, all three interior guys from last year are gone, and we thought that would affect them. I didn't think it would affect them this much. It's kind of crazy how bad they look.
And the other thing, just to put it out there, man, if Brady doesn't stop whining after every freaking play, I think I'm going to Elvis my TV. Every play that doesn't go exactly what he wants to do, he's complaining and bitching to the referees. It's just, come on.
He's done that his whole career, but now it's just more annoying because they are so bad. He's having to do it more. I mean,
exactly.
If they get stopped on third down, he like throws a hissy fit. He's broke like 9 laptops over there, or 9 tablets over there this year because he acts so mad whenever they don't get a first down. I'm like, dude, you're going to run out of tablets because your offense is garbage. And, I don't really know what the problem is, but, having him throw it 55 times a game isn't a great idea.
No, and he's yelling at his wide receivers. He's yelling, as people are saying, it's obvious that he and Mike Evans aren't on the same page right now. For whatever reason, they're not hooking up the way they used to. Maybe, having Gronk there took responsibility away from Evans where he could cruise a little bit more. But you would figure they would be doing much, much better, than they are right now. But that whole division, though, when you look at it, the Saints, it looks like the Dennis Allen experiment ain't working out too good. I mean, it doesn't help that he hasn't had his quarterback all year long, but
he's chosen to go with Andy Dalton. I mean, that's just a fact. And is Andy Dalton great? No. But the reason they've lost the last few games is really not even Andy Dalton. It's the coaching. The play calling's been atrocious. The time management has been awful. I wanted this to work for Dennis Allen, and I really hoped it would, given the continuity of the staff and the continuity of the players and the guys they added to the team. I was like, man, he might be able to make it work this time. But I got to be honest with you, I don't see the point in going into another season with this guy because he has no idea what he's doing. He's losing games that they have no business losing. They were up 16-3 in the fourth quarter, and he couldn't even run the clock out when they had 8 minutes to go and had the football. This guy needs to go, and the sooner they fire him, the better the Saints will be.
It reminds me of the way with him being hired. It reminds me of the way it used to be in the NFL, where there was like this old boy network that always got rehired. Dan Henning was the name that always came up, and the guy was, he one of Bill Parcells' best friends, and he worked with the Cowboys and Tom Landry. But every time he took over a head coaching job, he was terrible. He was a pretty good offensive coordinator, but he couldn't do, like you say, run the game, run the team, be the CEO, get the guys playing well. And when you look at it in this whole division, it's like, what do you think about Atlanta? They're switching. They're getting rid of Mariota.
Well, apparently Mariota quit and left the team after he was told that he was being replaced. But let's be honest. I mean, Mariota hasn't done anything to deserve to hold on to his spot. And honestly, I have a hard time believing that Desmond Ridder is going to fix things, because if Desmond Ridder looked like he was good, he would have played 4 weeks ago. So I think I'm just, this is just my opinion here, but I think the Falcons are done. And I would say they are more than done, except for the fact that their division sucks so bad that if they could just string together 2 or 3 wins, they'd be right there. But I just don't see them doing it the way they've played the last couple of weeks. I think they're pretty much history. But, I mean, who's going to win? I don't know. I mean, the Panthers are horrible, yet they keep figuring out a way to squeak out wins. The Buccaneers have the most wins so far, and, the Saints, thanks to Dennis Allen, can't win games that they should win. So I have no idea who's going to win this division, but I can tell you this, whoever it is not going to have a winning record.
But when you look at it now, look at these teams. I mean, the Buccaneers sold their soul to win the Super Bowl. They went out and got Brady. they got all the pieces around them. They sold their soul. They got the Super Bowl out of it, so they're fine. But and you look at Carolina, it didn't work out with Baker Mayfield. Didn't work out with Sam Darnold. Matt Rule's time there left them in a mess. So they're a mess, and as you say, they've been a mess for a long period of time. The window for a team like the Falcons to leapfrog to the start of this division, if they make the right moves, to me makes it's open if they make the right moves. But where do they need to look? Is Pitts a bust? Or they just don't have a guy that can throw him the ball?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell how good he is or how good he could be because, I'm sorry. I like Marcus Mariota. I think he was a great college quarterback. He was really good in Chip Kelly's system, but he's trash. He's been trash in the NFL for a long time. And if you could sit there and look at him, I know Geno Smith has done this amazing resurrection of his career, but at least Geno had some flashes where he could sling the ball around. Marcus Mariota's never been able to sling the ball around, and I don't know why the Falcons thought he could. I think they got rid of Matt Ryan and were like playing musical chairs with, we can get somebody, and then there was nobody left, and that's why they went after Mariota. But it's hard to really judge any of the personnel on the Falcons with the quarterback play they've had, and like I said, I don't think Desmond Ridder is really going to be able to help them at this point just because of where they're at as an offense. And I feel bad because I do like their coaching staff. I think he's done a pretty good job getting as much out of these guys as he can, especially what he got out of Mariota. Getting some wins with that guy at quarterback is pretty impressive, but you could see it in that Steelers game. Kenny Pickett went down. They had to bring in Mitch Trubisky. He's throwing interceptions galore. I think he came in and threw 3 interceptions, in one of those games, and just looked horrible. And then in the Falcons game, Pickett was able to finish it, but Mariota was just god awful and throwing interceptions again. And the fact that they were able to stay in that game is amazing. The fact that they're 5-8 is amazing, but I don't really know where they need to go from here. They need another. They need another wide receiver. I don't know I guess they could bring in a guy like Jimmy G. I think that would be a good idea because they do have Ridder, and they're not going to figure out if he's good enough just by these last few games. So I think
Jimmy's only 30 years old. People, maybe 31. He's still relatively young. You can get 4 or 5 years out of him.
Yeah, maybe. But, they were saying he was injury prone before this year, and now he's hurt and out again. So I don't know. How long is he going to last? How many games can he really play in a season?
I know, but I always look at that. And maybe it's Shanahan after what we saw. Maybe it's Shanahan. But, Shanahan's record, well now until he found Brock Purdy. His record without Jimmy G was under 500 by a lot. And
because he had Nicky Mullins and C.J. Beathard playing. Yeah. That was the issue the other year. This year, he had a pretty good stockpile of quarterbacks. He had Trey Lance. He had Jimmy G as the backup. He had Brock Purdy as the third stringer. He was better set up than he was those years. If you think back the year in 2018 when he had to start Nicky Mullins, he won that first game, and everybody was like, Nicky Mullins, maybe he's going to be good. And then he lost 3 in a row because he was so horrible. But, he can prop guys up for a few games at least.
All right, well, let's get to the top of the NFC and take a quick look here. Philadelphia is far and away the best team in the division. All they got to worry about is keeping Jalen Hurts from getting hurt, and they should cruise to the number 1 seed, no problem. The Vikings are showing some problems. The last few weeks, they have not been the Vikings that had been around for the first 8 weeks. Where are they missing the boat now?
Well, they're still 10-3, and they've won, 2 out of the last 3 games. They beat the Patriots, they beat the Jets, in 2 close games. I know those games were close, but I honestly liked the fact that they were able to pull out 2 close games. Now, that blowout versus the Cowboys, I can't really explain that one. No. The Cowboys could have scored 150 points that game. and the Vikings were lucky to get 3. So I don't really know what happened there, but if you take away that Cowboys game, the Vikings season's pretty damn good. So I'm not giving up on them yet. I still think they've got the weapons. They just need to be able to run the football. That's where they have problems, is when they don't run the ball. Like against the Lions this week, Dalvin Cook had 15 carries for 23 yards. That's 1.5 a clip. That ain't going to get it done. So they've got to be able to run it. He don't have to go for 150, but they need to be able to run it for at least 70, 80 yards a game minimum from Dalvin Cook for them to have a chance to win.
And then, we talked about the Niners a little bit. Big game tonight against the Seahawks to put the Seahawks further in their rearview mirror and get a little cushion there. We're going to see what Purdy does tonight. I mean, if he can be as good as he was or close to what he was on Sunday, they should be able to survive this. And I don't know if they made any moves with Jimmy G yet. I hear they weren't going to IR him because they think he might be able to come back.
Yeah, well, they may need him. There's supposedly he's supposed to start tonight, Brock Purdy, but he's questionable for the game. He's got some banged up ribs, just like Mike White. So, like you said before, even if he does play, how good is he? And the problem is now they're down to number 4. And if Brock Purdy gets hurt again, or if he's not being effective, what do you do? Do you put Josh Johnson out there? I mean, that's the only other guy they have on the roster. So I'm a little bit concerned about that. And the Seahawks have not been playing well and struggled the last few weeks. And this could be a game where they could get things back going in the right direction, because the offense for the Niners, I think, is going to be slowed down because Brock Purdy's banged up and there's no Deebo Samuel.
Well, it's going to have to be the Niners defense doing it. The Cowboys are making some statements lately. It looks right now, if you'd probably be in Vegas, you were looking at the Cowboys Phillies as the NFC Championship game, which would be kind of fun to watch in some ways, even though I hate both those teams. I would hope it would be in Philadelphia, so we'd see the Cowboys have to play in cold weather and maybe not see Jerry Jones. Who knows? What do you think about the Cowboys?
The Cowboys, to me, are a team that I believe in simply because their defense travels, and I believe in that defense. They've got the right guy pulling the strings back there with the defensive coordinator, and then you got Micah Parsons, who's pretty much unblockable. And when you've got those two things, you're in business. And just think about it. They had 3 turnovers against the Texans. Dak Prescott's been throwing the ball to the other team. They had a fumble from Turpin. So, you turn the ball over 3 times and you're still able to come back and win at the end. That was pretty impressive to me. So if they can keep, playing good defense and keep running the football, they got 2 healthy backs now with Elliott and Pollard. I think the Cowboys are set up pretty good. Hell, they're 10-3. They're 7-1 at home. I'm a believer in the Cowboys right now.
And didn't they bring in T.Y. Hilton this week?
They did. They added him to the mix. They got tired of waiting around for Odell Beckham to see if he was going to play or not. And honestly, they kind of need him. I mean, Dalton Schultz led them in receiving against the Texans with 6 catches for 87 yards. Second was Noah Brown, the former Buckeye. And CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup struggled a little bit. So I think putting another guy out there, I mean, James Washington's just been hopeless for them. I think he had 1 target, no catches. He's been a no-show, so might as well take a flyer. If T.Y. Hilton doesn't work out, you can move on, but might as well throw him out there and see if he's got anything left in the tank.
I tell you, I've always liked T.Y. Hilton. I always liked him. I think he's been, I know he's a little long in the tooth, and he hasn't played this year. And he was out most of last year, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was banged up. The last 2 out of the last 3 years, he's been banged up quite a bit. But he's the best player ever coming out of FIU. I'll tell you that much.
And the other thing is, since he hasn't played, maybe fresh legs, and that might help him. And you never know. I mean, that's another one where I look at as a Giant fan, going, "Why didn't you bring him in to take a look at him? He couldn't have hurt. Maybe you wouldn't want to go there. Maybe you said, I don't want to be there." But I mean, then again, Brian Daboll is an offensive coach, and T.Y. Hilton would be the number one receiver on the Giants right away, but they missed their opportunity for that. They went to bed on that.
Well, they've missed, as we said, on a lot of their guys. And once Wan'Dale Robinson went down and Sterling Shepard got hurt, this receiving corps has been a mess for the Giants.
All right, let's get over to the AFC. Bills look to be back on track a little bit. They still depend too much on Josh Allen doing everything. But their defense, losing Von Miller was bad, but they looked pretty good against the Jets. They punished the hell out of Mike White.
Yeah, they held the Jets to 12 points and 0 points in the first half. And they were able to get to Mike White because they dialed up the blitz a little bit. Leslie Frazier mixed it up. He's going to have to do that with no Von Miller now. They're going to have to blitz guys. They're going to have to do stunts. And that's what he did. He blitzed Matt Milano several times. He got in there and hit the quarterback, had a tackle for loss, and created some pressure. And that's what they're going to have to do. But also Gregory Rousseau, the young man out of Miami, he's really starting to come around. He had 2 sacks versus the Jets, and I think he's the guy that's going to benefit the most from Von Miller being gone because he's going to get more reps. And he looks to me like a dude that's really starting to come around. And he's going to have to if the Bills are going to get far.
And we have the Chiefs, another weird, pull it out of your butt play by Mahomes on Sunday with that running towards the sidelines and then no look pass and all. But they win the game. But he have 2 or 3 interceptions in the game too?
He had 3.
Yeah, I mean, he can be. I mean, there's no other player like Mahomes. I mean, he's a great player, but there are some times when you wonder and you go, man, you think you can throw it anytime, anywhere?
Well, I think they took the foot off the gas a little bit. They were up big. I think they were up 28-14 at halftime, and they had the ball going in. They were up 28-7 and had the ball. And, he threw an interception, which was costly because the Denver went down and scored, cut it to 28-14 and gave them life when really they were almost in the coffin. So I think that was a mistake. But once Russell Wilson went down, then I kind of felt like the Broncos were done. Plus they're the Broncos. So, but yeah, this didn't look good. 34-28, having 3 picks. But the fact that they could still win that game with all those mistakes at the end, I think bodes well for them.
Yeah, it does. But I like Steve Spagnuolo because of what he did for the Giants, helping them win 2 Super Bowls. But sometimes his defense is kind of played down. They don't show up every week to me. And he's going to have to get that straightened out, especially with the fact that you look at the next players. I mean, you got to figure they're going to have to face either the Bills or Joe Burrow, who seems to have their number right now, who now has the Bengals back in first place. This kid he's right up there with Mahomes, and Josh Allen is the best, and Jalen Hurts is the best quarterbacks in football right now.
There's no doubt. I mean, even this past game, they didn't have T. Higgins. They didn't have Tyler Boyd. Everybody knew that he was going to Jamar Chase, and he still did it. And he was fitting balls into tight windows and making it happen. And I think that shows you just how good this guy is, considering he was missing half of his receiving or 2/3 of his receiving core, and he was still able to go for 240 yards and 2 touchdowns. This guy, the top 4 quarterbacks are Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes. I mean, it's those 4 guys and everybody else, in my opinion. And sorry to whoever got left out of there, but that's where I rate them, and that's where I'm at. And this dude is got them humming. They're 9-4, and this doesn't look like the team that we thought maybe would take a step back after going to the Super Bowl. They've won 5 in a row, and they've won 7 out of the last 8. So hard to find any holes in these guys' game right now.
No, I say that's if you're Haslam down there in Cleveland, you're sitting there going, yeah, I spent all this money on Deshaun Watson, but he's going to be not the best quarterback in our division for a long period of time, if at all, if ever. So, that's where that stands. Baltimore Ravens, your boy. I mean, Jackson got hurt again late in the season. The dependence on him too much, or what? Can he get through a season without getting injured, or could they find a way?
Well, they rely on him way too much. I mean, you said it right there. That's the problem. I mean, he's got to throw it. He's got to run it. Hell, he's got to catch it too. I mean, you want him to throw it to his goddamn self. I don't understand what they're doing. I mean, luckily J.K. Dobbins finally got healthy, so he could help out a little bit this past weekend. But too late. Lamar's already gone. But finally, they had Gus Edwards there. He ran 13 times for 66 yards. J.K. Dobbins went 15 carries for 120 yards. They finally get the running backs back. You know, if Lamar hadn't had to run the ball every damn time because these guys have all been hurt, maybe he'd still be playing. But, you know, it's not just him in this offense. Tyler Huntley got banged up. He's in concussion protocol. Supposedly he's going to be able to potentially play, but they may be down to their third quarterback. So it's not just Lamar getting hurt in this offense. It's whoever is playing quarterback because the receivers are garbage. I mean, Demarcus Robinson couldn't even get on the field for the two teams he's played for. And now he's the number one option for the Ravens. You know, I know that Rashad Bateman's hurt, but I mean, you got to have more than one guy. And they don't. I mean, Devin Duvernay is a great kick returner. He's a good gadget guy. Is he a number two? Nope. Deshaun Jackson's 57 years old. Why he's even on this roster, I don't know. It's basically Mark Andrews and Demarcus Robinson. And to be honest with you, Mark Andrews is a tight end, and Demarcus Robinson sucks. So I don't know what they're doing. You talk about the Giants' problems at receiver. Baltimore's had more trouble over a longer period of time of bringing anybody in.
You've been talking about it for 3 years now.
Yeah, I mean, their dome GM admitted it. He's like, we've been trying, we've been throwing darts at the wall, but none have been sticking because they can't seem to pick the right guy. And you know, getting Miles Boykin out of Notre Dame was a huge bust. And you know, drafting Hollywood Brown as high as they did was a big mistake because look, he can't do anything in Arizona either. He's a one-trick pony, and they need some help at wide receiver big time, especially, you know, if I was Lamar, I'd be like, yeah, I'll stay. You can put me on the tag. You can sign me, whatever you want to do, but at least get me somebody to throw the damn football to.
For sure. Then we have the Dolphins who, you know, for a couple of weeks looked like they were maybe he's going to be able to supplant the Bills, but now we're going to see them against the Bills this weekend, and they're in second place, still there. I mean, 10-3, nice record. The kid the first year as this coach coming out of nowhere. But I mean, do they have enough to finish this off? I don't think they have enough to catch the Bills. I think the Bills are going to take care of them this week.
Who are you talking about?
The Dolphins.
They have. I thought they were 8-5, aren't they?
Are they 8-5 or well? Wait, look quick.
Yeah,
8-5. Sorry, they're playing the Bills, who are 10-3. I looked down.
Yeah, I got you. Okay, I was confused there for a second. I was like, when did the Dolphins win 2 more games? No, you know, I got to be honest. I'm really concerned about the Dolphins after last week. I don't know if you watched all of that Chargers game, but it was the worst performance that I've ever seen out of Tua. He just looked lost. He had no idea what he was doing. He threw for like 19 yards in the first half. He finished the game 10 of 28 for 145 yards, but you know, he had one ball to Tyreek Hill that was a 60-yarder. So if you take that away, he threw 9 passes for 80 yards.
Right.
And he looked lost. He's a guy that's a rhythm passer. If he can go back, set his feet, and look at one read or the other and get the ball out of his hands, he's great. But if anything goes wrong, if anything's out of rhythm, he struggles mightily. And you saw that the other night. And you got to give credit to the Chargers defense because they're down like 6 or 7 guys off their starters, but they played hard and they had a good scheme. But I'm real worried about the Dolphins with the way that Tua looked.
Well, the other team right behind him, the Titans, are a team that right now has not looked good the last couple of weeks, and they have the Chargers this week. What's wrong with the Titans? I mean, I know they depend too much on Derrick Henry. I know they don't really have a lot of superstars on the defensive side of the ball, or, you know, and you got Tannehill as your quarterback. But what happened? They were looking good. Then they fired the GM, and it looks like they're lost. And then it comes out that, Vrabel, didn't want them to get rid of the wide receiver. So I
AJ
don't know.
Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they should have kept AJ Brown. Look at what he's doing in Philadelphia. I mean, he was a big time help to this team, and now they have no number one wide receiver, and it's showing. The secondary can come after Derrick Henry, and they can come after Ryan Tannehill because they can play man coverage on the back end and have no trouble staying with Robert Woods, staying with Chris Conley, who's on his seventh team in the NFL and has never done anything with any of them. Nick Westbrook-Akine is probably their best weapon. And who's that guy? It's just like the Ravens. They just have no weapons on the outside. And that's a big problem. I mean, when you have a guy like Derrick Henry carry the ball 17 times for 121 yards and you can't win the football game and you get blown out, that's a big problem. And, is Tannehill great? No. But, you took away his best option passing the football. Their offensive line has gotten worse, and the defense can't stop anybody on third down. So that's what they're dealing with right now. I still like Vrabel as a coach. I've got some problems. I've got some problems with this offensive coordinator. I haven't been real impressed with the game plans I've seen out of him. And like I said, their defense is atrocious, especially on the back end.
All right, now we're going to look at the bubble here. You got the Patriots who jumped over the Jets, and we talked about it earlier. Those two losses the Jets took to the Patriots might come back to really bite them in the butt. They've got the Raiders this week. Josh McDaniel, welcome back. Facing your old coach, and I'm sure that Belichick will dial something up that McDaniel won't be ready for. But there was the explosion with Mac Jones 2 weeks ago. Did that establish his leadership on the team?
There's been a lot of interesting stuff going on with the Patriots this year. You got Matt Patricia calling the plays with his first time really dealing with offense ever. You've seen some friction between him and Mac Jones, but really both these guys want to win. And they get heated during the games, but I really don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, they both want to get this right. I think Patricia's actually doing a pretty good job considering the personnel that he's got. It's not like they're loaded with talent either on offense, but I think he's doing the best he can do. And they're still trying to figure out, the best way to use the skills of Mac Jones. I mean, Mac Jones hasn't been there all year. He's been banged up. They're one of the teams. I think there's like 11 or 12 teams that have gone 3 deep in quarterbacks, and the Patriots are one of them. They put in Brian Hoyer when Mac Jones got hurt. He got concussed. They had to turn to the rookie Bailey Zappi. He sparked some magic for a while. So honestly, I think this guy is obviously been more geared towards being on the defensive side in Matt Patricia, but I think he's growing and he's getting better calling plays every game. And I think if they can put together a couple of games in a row, I think they'll be all right. And they should be able to do it this week because the Raiders are a joke. The fact they lost to Jeff Saturday, who never coached a game in the NFL in his life, he gets hired on Tuesday, and he beats him on Sunday. And then they go this past week and get embarrassed once again playing a guy who joined the team on Tuesday night, and they get beat on Thursday when they've got him pinned at the 2-yard line. So, as I said, Dennis Allen needs to be fired right now. And to be honest, I've seen pretty much all I need to see out of Josh McDaniels. This offense has taken a nosedive ever since he got there. And they were rolling really good last year, whether it was the interim coach or John Gruden. So I've seen enough out of him to know nothing's changed.
Yeah, we covered that a couple of weeks ago. That was just that was just a headline grab if you look at it. I mean, you have a coach who comes out of nowhere and leads you to the playoffs and gets let go of. I mean, that's just ridiculous. I mean, if a guy leads you to the playoffs, he deserves one more shot. I mean, I'm sorry, just how much better can he do with what he was dealt with? I mean, you had the controversy with Gruden and everything, and then they go out and get McDaniel in the offseason.
Well, if you can keep a team together with all the things that happened, the Gruden firing, the Damon
Ruggs.
Arnett ordeal where he got kicked off the team for talking about killing people on the TikTok video. Then you had Henry Ruggs actually killing somebody. Then you had all the other things that went on with some of the other Klein Farrell and some of the other busts. And then they cut Jonathan Abram, and none of their picks have worked out. That's why they fired Mike Mayock, the moron. But, why would you not keep this coach that proved, not only can he coach, but he can keep together a locker room. And right now, I think a lot of these Raiders are ready to jump ship. Derek Carr.
I think so.
I think Derek Carr wants out, and I don't blame him. This offense is horrible.
There's another guy Atlanta should look at.
Yeah, Derek Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo, somebody's going to be available for them to go get, and Atlanta's going to have the cap room to overpay. So I think they're going to get one of these dudes, and with Marcus Mariota MIA, they're going to have an open spot.
All right, and then we got the Chargers and the Jets, kind of tied on the bubble, both at 7 and 6. The Chargers. Is it make or break for this coach over the next couple of weeks?
I don't know. He's looked better. He stopped going for it on 4th down on his own 20. So I guess we can call that progress. And like I said, I was really impressed with the way that the defense played. And this team, doesn't look as good when they don't have their weapons, but they do have 2 really good wide receivers, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen. Those guys are straight up ballers. And when they're healthy, you've got Williams, you got Allen, you got Eckler, you got Palmer, you got Gerald Everett. You've got a slew of 5 big time players, and they can win football games. So I think if they got these guys healthy, I think they can keep winning, and I think this guy can keep his job. But if those receivers go down again, they're going to go right back where they were at.
But I also think that they got to at least – I'd like to see him make the playoffs. Just get Justin Herbert in there, see what he can do.
Now, they should have made it last year.
Yeah, but we'll see. We got them. We got the Jets we talked about already. Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence is starting to show why he's the number 1 pick. I mean, the talent will show up at least at some point. What do you think about them right now?
Well, they finally got him some dudes. Last year everything got blamed on him, but it really wasn't his fault. I mean, who was he supposed to throw it to? They just didn't have any talent around him. But now they do. They brought in a bunch of guys. They brought in Zay Jones from the Raiders, who's doing a great job. Your boy from New York, Evan Ingram, had a huge game this past week. Yeah, 11 catches, 162 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was awesome. They brought in Christian Kirk, who's paid off, Jamal Agnew, Marvin Jones. None of these guys were on the team last year. So, you asked me what's different. The team's different. They got JaMychal Hasty. They got Travis Etienne. They brought in so many different options on offense that Trevor Lawrence can finally throw the ball and somebody can catch it. So I think that's what we're seeing. And I don't think Trevor Lawrence was ever bad. This guy's been a superstar ever since he got to college and was an unbelievable high school quarterback. He's the real deal, and he just needs some help.
What do you think about Peterson as a coach?
I don't have a problem with him. I thought he did a really good job in Philadelphia when he was there. And honestly, I kind of thought he got the shaft considering how many injuries they had those last
Carson
2 years.
Wentz turned into not being Carson Wentz.
Yeah, and Carson Wentz, went into the commode. So you had all those injuries. You had Wentz, who couldn't stay healthy, and when he did stay healthy, he had some mind problems. But I think if you would have left him there to continue to work with Jalen Hurts, I think he would have done a pretty good job too. I'm not saying that Nick Sirianni's shouldn't get credit for what he's done. He should. But I'm just saying I think Johnson would have done okay with him too. I think he's a good coach, and he's been around the game a long time. He was a backup quarterback in the NFL for 20 years. This dude knows what he's doing, and I think having a year off also reinvigorated him.
Yeah, I think so too. Love the first. That's our first commode reference ever. Very well done.
Won't be the last.
That came out of nowhere. Nicely done. Nicely delivered. Perfectly done. That was great.
I'll be here all
Thank
night.
you. Thank you. All right, let's do a little college football right now. I want to talk a little college with you. First of all, the tragedy of Mike Leach. I mean, seemed like a real decent guy, a real good coach and everything. What was your you watched the college game a lot more closely than I do. So what was your feeling about Mike Leach as a coach and as a man, what you've seen from him over his career?
Yeah, I've met Mike Leach several times, especially when he was the coach at Texas Tech. I got to meet him at the Texas High School Coach Association meeting, also at the American Football Coach Association meeting. And man, the guy is just he's exactly, what you see is what you get with him. The exact
He looks like a football coach.
Well, and what you see from him in his press conferences, that's exactly how he acts in real life. He's not putting on a show for the camera. That's who he is. And he's just a really smart guy. He's a really funny guy. I don't know if you saw, but we had Tony Franklin on the show, Man Coverage, a couple weeks ago, and he knows Mike really well and helped design that offense, the air raid offense, with him and Hal Mummy. So they were attached at the hip at Kentucky, and he's a really good friend of his and knows him really well. And this guy, he's a different cat. There's nobody really like him, and I think that's why people liked him. He was different. But it also goes to show you, man, you may be here one day, you might not be here tomorrow. He was at practice on Sunday, and then Monday, has a heart attack and dies. So it's a really horrible tragedy. Mississippi State was getting ready to have a bowl game after finishing the season strong and beating their arch rival Ole Miss, and bam, it's all over. So I feel bad for Mike especially, and I feel bad for his kids and his family, and I feel bad for the team because they're going to have to rally and get it going. But they did promote their defensive coordinator as the head coach. Their athletic director just left about a month and a half ago to go to Auburn. So they don't really have an AD right now. I don't think they wanted to go ahead and make a hire when they don't have an athletic director in place.
That'd be bad.
I think they made the right move, and hopefully this guy can do something with these guys that are still there.
All right, another thing I wanted to talk about is the race to the transfer portal. You got DJ getting out of Clemson. You got Drew Pine leaving Notre Dame. DJ, I kind of you've been talking about a year about how that freshman quarterback kind of showed some flashes, and DJ was kind of a turnover machine this year. What do you think about that? First of all, I'm not shocked about Drew Pine leaving Notre Dame or being told he's not going to be their starting quarterback. They're going to look for other options because he had a pretty decent year. I think he threw like 22 touchdown passes, only 6 interceptions. But I don't think he's the kind of guy that can get Notre Dame up to the next level. They need to. I've talked about this many times with you. Why Notre Dame can't get a top 5-star quarterback is beyond me. So with those two instances, what do you think?
Well, I'm not really sure what he's doing because I think he had the best chance of, playing at a major college if he stayed right where he is. So I think
You're talking about Pine?
I'm talking about Pine. Yeah, I think he got some bad advice. I think, even if they bring somebody in, he's going to have the upper hand because he's been in the system. They're not going to get rid of Tommy Rees, the offensive coordinator. He's definitely coming back. And Drew Pine knew the offense. He knows Tommy. He knows what Tommy likes to call. I think he would have had the head up on whoever they bring in. So I think he made a mistake, honestly. I don't know who else has just looked at his tape and been like, oh, we got to go get that guy. If you look at it right now, I think he's like 15th on the list of the guys in the portal. So you've got all the young kids, all the rookies, all the high school kids coming in, and then you got all these dudes in the portal. Drew Pine is ranked 15th out of the guys in the portal. And some of these guys have already signed. Tony Muskett already signed with Virginia. Cade McNamara already signed with Iowa. Some of these dudes have already Kyron Drones left Baylor and already signed with Virginia Tech. So some of these spots have already filled up, and other of these ones already have their guy, or they have a freshman coming in. So I think Drew Pine may be the odd man left out if he can't get a spot really quick, because these musical chairs are spinning and spinning, and dudes are sitting down really quickly. DJU had to get out. Cade Klubnik, as I told you, is better. I mean, he's just a better player. When he got out there, the offense worked better, and then you saw it in the final game of the season against UNC. It looked like a different team. And, sorry, DJ, but this kid's better than you at this offense. And, Dabo should have made the move a long time ago. Not telling Dabo how to coach, because this guy, been to 6 college football playoffs. He knows what the hell he's doing, but I have no idea why he stuck with DJU as long as he did.
Well, back to Pine for a minute. I mean, I just know a little bit of the history. I'm not going to tell you I know the kid, but he grew up upstate in Connecticut, or out west in Connecticut, in Danbury, New Fairfield area. And his family actually moved down to New Canaan to play for one of the legendary programs in the state. Played for Lou Marinelli at New Canaan, who's won multiple state championships and FCX championships. And I don't think he stepped right in there as a starter his 3 years there at New Canaan, or 2 or 4 years there at New Canaan. I think it was only 3. But I don't think he's faced a lot of adversity. So I don't know. Maybe the kid's not used to that. And maybe, like you said, maybe he got bad advice. But maybe he's not used to fighting for his job and thinks he earned it. Like I said, if you look at his stats, they're not bad stats. It's just that I don't see him as, he's kind of short. I don't know if he's got the arm that you're going to need to get Notre Dame to the next level. But, I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up at UConn.
Yeah, I mean, that might be a really good spot for him. Honestly, we've talked about it ad nauseum, but Jim Moore Jr. is one of my candidates for Coach of the Year. What he did at UConn this year is just nothing short of phenomenal, especially the way they started the season and the way they finished it. He's really, really made an impact there. And that's all he needs, is to get somebody that can come and play quarterback and elevate the offensive play. And if he could talk him into coming there, I think that would be a great move for Jim Moore. I don't know if that's a great move for Drew Pine to go from Notre Dame to Connecticut. But, it's a great move for Jim Moore if he can get him.
Well, I mean, like you said, he's number 15 on the list. So
that's why I don't understand why he left. I'm super confused by why he did that. I don't for the life of me understand it. But as you mentioned, and as a bunch of people have said, that's the mentality now. Instead of, no one knows how to fail anymore. No. Instead of, not saying he failed, but I'm just saying nobody wants to fail. They don't want to
compete.
They don't want to compete. They just want to go and be the guy, because that's kind of that's the portal mentality.
Well, it is, and the thing about it is like we've talked about this ad nauseum. I mean, yeah, they go and they sit on a bench at Alabama. When they don't get the chance, they transfer out. It's like, well, why did you go to Alabama in the first place when you got 3 guys ready to play there? Go to a place where you're going to play.
Yeah, I think he's a little bit worried about Kenny Minchie. That's the 4-star guy out of Pope John Paul II High School here in Tennessee. That was the big commit that Notre Dame got. But like I said, I think Drew Pine would have had leg up on him, considering he's played in the offense for a couple of years, under Tommy Rees. So I would have stuck it out and tried to win the job, but that's just me.
Well, yeah, and it's like you said, it's the anti-way of the way these guys do it. I mean, you'd love to see a guy dig his cleats in and say, "No, this is my job." You let the guy try and come take it from me, and see what happens. But we'll see what happens there. Let's do our picks of the week. I'm right now sitting at 22-14. I don't know what you're at.
I have no idea. Hang on.
We didn't pick last week. I was 2-1 the week before.
Yeah. I have no idea. I didn't know we were doing this right now. I don't have it in front of me, but give me a second. Go ahead and do yours, and I'll find mine.
Okay. I'm taking Cincinnati -3.5 over Tampa. I'm taking the Titans +3 over the Chargers. And I'm taking Philadelphia -9 over Chicago.
Yeah, I'm going to do the Seahawks over the Niners. I think that I get it. The Niners defense is good, no shit. But at some point, they're going to have to keep up scoring with some teams. And you know what? I get it. He's played really good in 2 games, but now the coaches have 2 games. Pete Carroll knows what he's doing. He's going to have 2 games to look at. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Seahawks and the points there. I'm also going to take the Ravens as the Browns are favored by 3. I know that they're banged up at quarterback, but it's the Browns. It's Deshaun Watson, and I'm just not a believer in them. So I'm going to take the Ravens and the points on that one. And then I'm going to take the Dolphins and the points as the Bills are getting 7.5 on them.
I'll tell you that Cleveland game, if they, I think you did a good pick there, but just if you look at it, Deshaun Watson, this is 3 weeks. This is his 3rd week, right? 3rd week starting?
Yes, 3rd game.
You would think that the rust would start to wear off on him. And if he doesn't show anything in this game, God, it's going to be looking like it's going to be a long off season.
What have you seen so far that looks good?
I haven't seen anything that looks good, but you would think, like, with Baltimore being so beat up, it would be the game that maybe would be his coming out party, but if he's going to, and I think you're right, I don't think it's going to be.
I think they already know they're done for this year, so they're kind of waiting on next year for the Browns, and so I don't think they're really even expecting a bunch out of him. I wouldn't. He hasn't played in 2 years, and the last time he did play, he was 4-12. So we'll see. I'll believe it when I see it. I know he's good, and he will be good again, I think, but I'm not sure it's going to be Sunday.
I don't know. 2 years is a long time to give up on your career. That's a long time. And better players come in behind you, like we said earlier. Joe Burrow is the best quarterback in that division by far over him. So I don't know where he thinks he's going to lead Cleveland out of with this. But all right, what's on man coverage this Sunday?
We're going to continue the transfer portal discussion. In fact, we've got a guy in the portal right now coming on the show. It's a kid out of Knoxville, Tennessee that was an All-American at Richmond. Also all-conference performer, Aaron Dykes, badass running back, kick returner. He's in the portal right now, but he's also considering going to the NFL. So we're hoping to either maybe break it on the show, or he's going to break it on Saturday, and we're going to talk about it on Sunday about where he's going and what he's doing, whether he's going to go to a big-time program in Division I, Power 5, or if he's going to hit up and head to the draft. So we're going to have Aaron Dykes on the show. We're going to break down the guys in the portal, the recruiting battles that are going on. We're going to break down the college football playoff. And then at 11:30 or 11:35, we're going to have Richmond running back Aaron Dykes come on the show as well.
All right, buddy. Have a good weekend. We'll see how the NFL breaks, and we will be back next week for another buy-pack show. Getting ready for Christmas?
Yeah, it's like I said, got my money today, so going to the store tomorrow. Get a couple of presents for the kids.
It comes so fast. All right, my friend, have a good night, and I'll see you next week.
All right, bud. Thanks.